let you go. There's no way. I'm already still burning. So hold me close. Now, baby, I do what I'm told. Still learning to take my chances, to take my time, to keep on dancing, to walk that line. Yeah, you got me shifting the paradigm. No longer wishing. You're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride. Look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, yeah. We could roll the dice. Act like you're surprised, but you already know. Oh yeah, got lucky overnight. Jackpot when I got the invite. Let me wrap my arms around you, cause I can't go home without you. And my heart just vibe with you, babe. Wanna go sky high with you, babe. Gotta bring you close to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. Cooler than cold, I'm all in. So load up the dice, so heavy. The way that
Well, hello everybody, and thanks for joining us for another week of the RecPoker podcast. I'm so excited to be here as your host. My name's Jim Reed. I'm Bluff Serini in the home game and at RecPoker Jim on Twitter. But I am just one of the Wrecking Crew members, the core team, the folks that make everything work around here. We couldn't do it without them, just like we couldn't do it without our sponsors, Mark Prashant over at website AMP, and the wonderful folks at the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. They've got some fun stuff coming up too. If you want to go to Running Aces, check out their website, and you'll find out some cool events happening in December that I think some people in Minnesota might get pretty excited about. And if you're excited about that kind of thing, I know you know what RecPoker is all about. We're a group of very enthusiastic, amateur, recreational poker players. We love the game. We love learning the game. We love learning from each other's mistakes. And so we share our pain with each other. We study together. We learn together. We celebrate together. We commiserate each other with each other. We do it all at rec.poker. And you can go and get a free account right now. All it takes is an email address and a smile. And you can take the next step and join our premium membership, where we, for $15 a month, really dive into poker strategy. We have learning and training seminars, multiple events every week. If you use the code RecPoker, you can get your first month for only $5. So I encourage you to go and try that out. You'll be learning with members of the Wrecking Crew. Like I said, I'm one of the Wrecking Crew members, but I'm just the guy they put in front of the mic on Mondays. You can go to rec.poker/crew to find out about me and all the rest of the wonderful folks here that make the magic happen. But you're going to meet a few of them right now, so you can just listen on up.
And I am John Somsky. I am Poker Geekin' everywhere.
Oh, and Rob Washam, for some reason, we're having trouble hearing him, but he is Rob Washam. He's Radman50 pretty much everywhere. And even though that Zoom looks like it's unmuted, for whatever reason, we were not getting your audio, Rob. So Rob will be starting in the chat box along with all our viewers who are joining us live every week on YouTube. I'd encourage, if you're listening to this at home, come pop in. It's every Monday night, 7:30 Eastern. We go live on YouTube with a guest. You can ask your questions in real time, and you can even win a prize at the end with our food bank promotion that we do each and every week. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sky Matsuhashi to the show, the one and only from Smart Poker Study, from the Poker Forge. He's the man that puts it all together. Sky, thank you for joining us here on the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, you've got such a great attitude about poker, and recreational poker players are kind of our bread and butter. And I know that's a group that you have a lot of affinity with. You work with a lot of excellent, skilled and experienced players, but I think a lot of intermediate and beginner players also have a lot to learn from some of the material that you put out there. So I was excited to have you back. Why don't you just let's just get started. Tell us a little bit about kind of like what's been going on with you lately, what you've been doing in the poker world, and then we'll get into some strategy segments a little later on.
Yeah, one big thing is I've done the Smart Poker Study podcast for a really long time, and I used to take the audio from the podcast and just put it out as a video on YouTube without any image, like without seeing me on camera, without showing anything, just a static image with the audio playing, right? But I said, I'd rather do something better. I would rather make YouTube videos now, and then in the videos kind of explain everything that I'm doing, but I show you what I'm doing, whether I'm playing poker, I'm reviewing hands, I'm using Flopzilla Pro. So my YouTube videos now are more like, I don't know, robust and more value oriented, more helpful for students, recreational and experienced players. But then I strip out the audio and put that in the podcast. So that's the big thing. And like I've only done it for the past 4 episodes now or so. And so it's kind of like a learning process. I'm redoing, because I used to just script the episodes and just read my entire script, put screenshots of things in the show notes and everything. But doing this now as a video and then editing videos, which is no fun at all for anybody who's ever edited. Hate editing, but so it's a learning process, but I'm really spending a lot of time there trying to up my YouTube game. And at the same time, I think I'm giving really good value with the podcast as well by doing it this way instead.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I think a lot of people out there have that kind of visual interface. They kind of appreciate that visual element when they're learning. I know I do. Has that changed the way that you approach the subject matter of your podcast?
Yes, it does, without a doubt. I'm trying to be more like, well, in the videos, I try to get right to the point. In a podcast, because people are listening while they're walking their dog, mowing the lawn or whatever, you can be kind of like more nonchalant and get to the point 1 or 2 minutes in, right? But in a video on YouTube, you got to boom, get right to it, because you got to deliver value right away. Because if they don't see value in the first 10 or 15 seconds, they click out of there super quick, right? So I need to start hitting them right away with what they're going to learn and start teaching right away. And so that's kind of, I think it's made me a stronger coach in some ways, right there. Just trying to deliver value as quick as I can instead of rambling on, which I tend to do sometimes.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. We got a comment in the chat here from Jack LaRue saying, I love your YouTube update. So obviously it's striking a chord already with, and Jack's just the kind of guy that you want to have on your side when it comes to that sort of thing. So I'm glad to hear that. And I'm not at all surprised.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Jack.
So talk to me a little bit about that process of video creation and editing. I get the sense it takes more work. It takes more time. It probably takes more planning a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit kind of how, like, I don't know, do you have a sense of like how long it takes per video or that kind of thing? Talk a little bit about that production process.
Yeah, definitely. So I have an idea for a video, whatever that is. I start brainstorming what is the information I want the student, the audience member, the viewer to learn, the podcast listener as well. Like, what is the most value that I can deliver? And, just like when you teach anything, you got to start with like, what is the deal? What's the problem? What's the issue? What are we trying to solve with these strategies? So you get into the problem first, and then you get into the solutions to that problem. Or maybe it's like teaching them a new strategy to make money. Well, you outline like a scenario that is common that we all experience, and then we get into here's what you can do in those situations, right? So I start with an idea, then I just start brainstorming, and I often either do an Excel based learning where I have everything typed out in Excel and we're just going down the Excel spreadsheet, or I create like a PowerPoint presentation of slides with, things pop up, boom, 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 words and images and stuff, and just give a presentation. But either way, it's kind of like a presentation where I'm looking at the camera. I imagine the camera is my audience. They're looking at me. I'm teaching in a classroom is basically how I treat it. And from creation to finally any episode is done when I've recorded all the videos, edited them, posted them on YouTube, got my thumbnail made, exported it to audio, created the MP3 for the podcast, released that, created the show notes page with all the images, and then finally email out to my newsletter that the new episode's available. So it's all those, it's like 9 basic big steps. And it takes anywhere from 4 to 8 hours to do for one episode. Because I'm not just making a video, like I said, there's other aspects to it too.
Yeah, well, you can tell it's a labor of love. You've been doing the podcast for a long time now, and I've always been impressed because, here it's a group effort. We get to kind of have a conversation with each other. We riff on each other's takes, and we kind of share the burden. It feels like it must be just a very different experience, kind of speaking into the void. Without any feedback like that at all. Is that difficult, or have you just totally nailed it by now? It doesn't even bother you anymore.
It doesn't bother me. I've nailed it, but then I often run ideas and things by either Poker Forge members in my Discord server where, we can chat about things, or my one-on-one students. Sometimes they'll ask Sky what's going on, or if I have a question, I just might ask them, hey, what do you think about this? And then I'll get feedback that way. But yeah, I am a one-man show, but I have hired somebody to make my thumbnails for YouTube, because that's an area that I'm lost. Not lost. I can make a thumbnail, but to make a catchy, good looking thumbnail, it's just not in me to do that. Not visually creative like that. But then later this month, or maybe next month, I'm going to hire my first virtual assistant to help and do a lot of mundane, tedious tasks. And then hopefully start growing from there. So I have the idea is build a team so I can do more and get more done.
And to take more things off your plate, because you're uniquely situated to do some of the things required by the organization, and a lot of the other stuff, anybody who kind of knows what they're doing could handle that kind of stuff. So like creating thumbnails, some of the other like logistical details about getting the thing live, that sort of thing. Is that when you do something yourself so much, is it hard to kind of like release control of some of those things? Is that an issue?
Yeah, without a doubt. I haven't hired a VA yet, virtual assistant, so I haven't really gone through the process, but I think about all the steps that I do, and it seems to me that I don't want to take the time to train somebody to do this stuff. But I know that if I spend like an extra whatever is required to train somebody to do this stuff, that saves me hours and hours each week. And not only that, but I can give them tasks, things that I've been wanting to do for such a long time. I can give them those tasks that they can do, like mundane things like organizing my YouTube videos by playlist, or getting my my current books and everything. I have them for sale on Amazon, but they're not on the various other places where you can sell ebooks and things, right? Like whatever, Nook or Kindle, all the different other places. So there's so many things that I can have them do that I just don't have the time, or I don't want to find the time to do myself.
Right. And there's a real opportunity cost, I think, to not doing those things at all. You get a chance to kind of pick up some low-hanging fruit. We talk about that here a lot. This is a great time for me to shout out Diego and Renz, who do a lot of work for us on our team behind the scenes. They're our production managers. And Diego, is just moving on. So Diego, if you're listening, farewell and good luck to you, sir. You've got some exciting stuff coming, and I'm excited to see what Renz can do on the show with us. And it really has helped a lot just to have some help in those areas. And I also got to shout out Roger Schutte, who's a premium member who does a lot of our audio optimization behind the scenes as well. I mean, it, man, it takes help. You need help if you're going to do a lot of this stuff. And I love the idea that you're going to be freed up yourself to do more of the video creation and the brainstorming and that goes on. So if folks don't know, so the Poker Forge is one of our learning partners here at RecPoker. Sky Matsuhashi has been working with us for a long time, and we get to share some of his amazing material with our premium members every month. It's a phenomenal arrangement. We're lucky to have you on the team. Sky is fantastic. So how do you choose what is going to be a video, what's going to be a Poker Forge premium strategy segment, what's going to go out on the podcast? What's that process like?
When an idea hits me, I just decide this is going to be the idea for this next week. I actually have I literally have a list of 30 or 40 podcast topics, kind of like in order that I want to do. And if something new comes to mind, I'll look at my list and I'll add it. This is going to be number 4. This is going to be number 24 after I get to all these other things. So I constantly have a list of just, and videos too, YouTube videos as well, just regular training, not podcast stuff. I have so many ideas right there. So I have a list, like Microsoft Word documents on my desktop. I can open up and look, and these are what I've thought about doing. And when I started the podcast and started making videos on YouTube, just started smartpokerstudy.com, I thought I would run out of ideas eventually. But that's not the way it works. I think when you really enjoy something, the ideas keep coming. I can make videos for the rest of my life probably on poker, right? And also, as I play more, as I coach more, as I become a better coach and a better player, I can now teach new strategies and dive into things differently. So sometimes you'll hear a podcast from me, and if you're familiar with my catalog, you might think, Sky talked about this 3 years ago. And sometimes I take an old podcast idea, but I just add to it and I change things to what I think is a better coaching experience or a better learning experience for the students, you know? And then, but when it comes to making things for YouTube or the Poker Forge, since I've built out the Poker Forge entirely, all 9 courses are there with the 10th course coming next year. When I add videos to the Poker Forge, those are specifically like a member has a question. And I think that's a great idea for a video, and it would fit perfectly in this course within the 9, you know, and then I'll make the video. I don't set out, like, look at my calendar and say, okay, I got to make a Forge video this week and a YouTube video next week and a Forge, you know, I don't do that. Just whatever ideas come to me. But because I'm constantly interacting with my students and Poker Forge members, I'm always getting ideas and always releasing new stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's nice when you kind of have that natural passion that's driving this too, you know, and I think we have to all flow like water when it comes to this kind of stuff. We got to go in the direction that we are choosing to go in and follow that natural passion and harness that. Because otherwise this starts to feel like a job. God, Lord knows we don't want that. Like, we love
That's
this
not
too
what
much.
I want. Yeah.
No, exactly. We wouldn't be in this. We wouldn't be doing this if that was our mindset. Well, I'll say, if you're on the panel here, of course, and you're not Rob Washam, feel free to unmute and you can ask Sky any questions you like. If you're following along in our YouTube chat, please do just type any questions in the chat box there, and Chris and I will relay them to Sky here. So Sky, I had a question. You help other people study poker and learn poker. You're fantastic at it. So many people benefit from the content and the material that you put out there. How do you have an active study part of your week or your month, or is your study just kind of fully made up of the work that you put into your training material?
That's a big portion of it. My training material is part of my studies, for sure. But then also, like, as I'm playing, I realize, and recording my own statistics and win rates, which I recommend everybody do, my students, Poker Forge members, and anybody outside, take a look at your stats and win rates with Poker Tracker 4 or Hold'em Manager every 2,000 to 5,000 hands or so, and then see where your leaks are. Where are you losing money? Where are you making money, right? Where you're losing money, fix those things. Where you're making money, do more of that. And then, so when I notice a leak, when I see that, oh my God, I'm calling C-bets way too often, whatever the leak might be, right? Then I know I need to focus on that. And then so I'll start studying it. I'll review a ton of hands, do a lot of hand reading and stuff. But recently I've been working on GTO studies. I'm trying to learn a software called GTO Plus, which ties into Flopzilla Pro, and I absolutely love Flopzilla Pro. So I got GTO Plus, and GTO is game theory optimal. For anybody that doesn't know, it's a way to look at range, like a player versus a player, and what the optimal plays are given what your opponent's range is. But so it's difficult for me to learn this. Not difficult for me to learn it, difficult for me to wrap my head around GTO, because in all my days of playing and coaching, I'm all about exploiting my opponent. Like, I know that my opponent folds to 3-bets too often, so I'm going to just 3-bet more. You know, I don't care what game theory optimal mathematics says. He folds, I 3-bet, right? He folds on the turn, I bet the turn. Like that. So, but game theory optimal is just a totally new way to look at poker. And I'm trying to learn, for one thing, wrap my head around GTO, but then also try to figure out, how can GTO studies help me exploit my opponents more? And so it's a really big learning process. So actually every day in the Discord server for the Poker Forge, I've been doing GTO Plus studies. So I jump on for 30 minutes to an hour. I've got GTO Plus, and I'm not Like, I don't do those streams with the promise of we're going to learn something today, right? We're studying together. No, I'm just trying to learn the software, figure it out. And if you want to watch, if the Poker Forge members want to watch along and see me muddle through the software and try to learn myself, then they can do that. So that's my big area of study right now, GTO.
Amazing. And yeah, I think a lot of people benefit from sort of seeing someone else using the software. It's just a lot easier for someone to shine a light on the path in front of you a little bit, so you're not taking those steps in the dark yourself all the time.
Yeah.
So we got one question. You talk about, because, we look at databases for clients, and we look at hand reviews for coaching clients and for members and that kind of thing. And it's easy to see areas where people are doing wrong and say, do this less. You referenced finding areas where people are doing things right, things that are making money, and then doing that more. I think it's hard to kind of imagine, I guess, can you give me an example of how you might find that, and then how you might implement that into your everyday play at the tables?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that comes to mind first is 3-betting, right? If you look at your database and you filter for the times when you made a 3-bet, and you also filter for the times that you open raised and then called a 3-bet, you're probably going to find, most players will find this, especially if they've never done studies, you're winning money when 3-betting and you're losing money when calling 3-bets. That's a super common thing. So like you could just like look at your results and say, oh, well, I'm losing when calling, so I got to work on those strategies there. But if you dive in a little bit deeper and get into the psychology behind it, I've always taught that aggressive poker is winning poker. 3-betting, where do the profits come from? 3-betters, the people who call. I mean, the people who fold too, you're winning their pre-flop chips, right, when they fold. But the profits coming from those callers. You're losing money when calling 3-bets. Where's that money going? To the 3-better. Right. So if you dive in and look at it like as a big picture thing, 3-betting is way better than calling 3-bets. So as a general strategy, 3-bet more often, call 3-bets less. Simple general strategy right there. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And then there's all those other kind of if you look at any kind of opposites, right? When you're 2-betting, you're making that first open raise pre-flop, you're going to be more profitable than when you're calling 2-bets. When you C-bet, you're going to be more profitable than calling C-bets. And if you just pay attention to your numbers a whole lot more, you're going to start noticing those patterns, and you're going to realize, oh my God, the Tom Dwans of the world, the Phil Ivies, all these guys who always get aggressive, the Antonio Esfandiaris, they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. I finally understand what they're saying. I got to call less and raise more, but it takes a while of thinking about it and playing to really understand and grasp that. And then it takes purposeful practice and a willingness to get aggressive, to turn yourself into the Tom Dwan that a lot of us want to be.
Yeah, you said it. Yeah, Chris, did you have something there?
Well, I just wanted to kind of jump off that segment about the 3-betting. Every month, RecPoker has sort of shifted to doing these sort of monthly themes where we as a community have a conversation about a topic. And this month, we're talking about those maybe unprofitable or areas where we are sort of maybe losing is defending against 3-bets. And I'm wondering, we're going to do it sometimes, right? Sometimes we need to be calling 3-bets to sort of defend our opening ranges. So what are some things to think about as a player who's maybe starting to think about this, rather than, oh, this is a pretty hand, it's not strong enough to I mean, what else should we be thinking about when we're thinking about defending against 3-bets?
Yeah. So when it comes to facing 3-bets, the first thing I teach my students is, before you even open raise, look ahead to the players still to act and see if there are any 3-bet bluffers still to act. If you're thinking about open raising in the cutoff, but the button, the small blind, and the big blind all love to 3-bet, you're just asking for a 3-bet, right? So plan on that 3-bet coming first, or at least look ahead. Now, the interesting thing is, if you see no 3-bet bluffers, nobody ever 3-bet bluffs, they only ever 3-bet with queens or better. That's it. Well, you open raise, you face a 3-bet, easy fold. Like there's no thinking about it, unless you have pocket aces or kings, right? I mean, it's a super easy fold. So that's the first step to being better, or to becoming better at facing 3-bets and defending against them, is looking for them ahead of time. The second thing about that is, when you face a 3-bet, you have to have an understanding of your opponent. Like I said earlier, I'm all about exploiting my opponents. I play the player. When somebody 3-bets, you have to put them on a range, try to visualize their range of hands. And that comes with practice using Flopzilla Pro, building ranges, reviewing hands, that kind of stuff, right? You put them on a range of hands, and then you can determine what hands to potentially call with. And those are basically hands at the top of their 3-betting range. If they only 3-bet, like let's imagine you have ace 5. Of course, they have the strongest pocket pairs in their 3-betting ranges, right? But if they only 3-bet with ace king, you're killing yourself if you call with ace 5. You truly are. The mathematical disadvantage of your ace 5 versus his ace king is bad. And even your ace 5 versus his kings, queens, jacks, and tens, you're a dog to all of those, right? You have the ace over card, but still it's bad. So you're giving them that mathematical advantage. But if you have ace king or ace queen and your opponent 3-bets you with all the suited aces, maybe offsuit broadways, they 3-bet with like pocket 7s, 8s, and 9s and above, then call at the top of their range, the ace king, the ace queen suited. You can call because you have that slightly, you're not slightly, you probably are like on even footing equity wise, your big hand versus their full range of 3-betting. You might even be slightly ahead if you just kind of like take out aces and kings. You're kind of ahead against all pocket pairs and some other aces right there. So that's the thing. But here's the thing. So your hand is important when calling. You want some equity. But you truly have to think, how am I going to win this pot post-flop? Because you're not going to hit the flop. Like 2 times out of every 3, 67%, your ace king isn't going to flop a top pair. Your 10s are the flop's going to come ace, king, or queen high against your pocket 10s, right? So you have to have a plan. You don't just look at your hand and say, oh, he 3-bet me. Let's imagine, okay, this is the worst scenario. You hold ace queen suited. You open raise, brand new player. You've never seen him before. You don't know anything about him. He 3-bet you to 10 big blinds. He started with only 50 big blinds. He 3-bet you to 10. And then you say, oh, I got ace king. I got to call. No, you don't know anything about the player. He's in position on the button. He only has 50 big blinds. As soon as you call, there's going to be 20 big blinds in the pot. He's only going to have 40. It's going to be so hard to get him to fold post-flop, and most likely you're not going to hit an ace or a king. You're going to have to bluff if you want to win. So that's a terrible spot to be calling against a complete unknown. You can't even put him on a range of hands. You know what I mean? So, like, the more you know about your opponent, the better you're able to make a plan for post-flop. Okay, I hold ace queen suited. I know this guy loves to c-bet bluff on flops, but he's very turn honest. I can call him on the flop and then bluff when he checks the turn. Boom, you got a plan. So before you called the 3-bet, you already know what you're potentially going to do. Now, the worst flop in the world can come, and he bets 150% pot on the flop. Oh, great, just fold, right? But at least you had that plan. You had a backup because you realize that most likely you're not going to win. I'm sorry, you're not going to hit a pair on the flop. So those are all the big considerations right there when it comes to calling 3-bets. It's not just your hand. Oh, it's also your position. If you raise in the cutoff and he's 3-betting from the small blind, you can afford a little bit more leeway in your calls because you're in position on the flop. But if you open in the cutoff, he calls on the button, eek, now he's got position. If he's a loose, aggressive player, he's going to potentially bet into you, right? So, yeah, position matters too. So there's a lot of different factors there.
Yeah, let me follow up on the positional question there a little bit, because I think everyone should be looking left and everyone should be thinking about, what's going to happen on future streets and have a plan for success there. I think players aren't sure how important position is when it comes to hand selection. Can you give me a couple examples of a hand that you would call a 3-bet with when you were in position, or that you would not if you were out of position, and sort of what the characteristics of that hand are that make it so?
Yeah, it would be like a weaker hand. So a hand that was like in the middle of their range. Earlier, I gave the example of calling with ace king or ace queen. But if I had ace jack or ace 10 suited, or even like king queen suited or pocket 9s, I might decide to call if I have position. But if I'm out of position with those hands, I'm probably just going to let it go. I'm going to let my 2.5 or 3 big blinds go. I don't want to choose to go out of position. Flop turn at 3 streets, I'm going to be out of position in a big pot. He 3-bets to 9 big blinds. If I call, that's 19.5 if you count the blinds, right? That's a big pot right there. As soon as you check, he's going to bet 12 or 13. If you call, that pot's huge on the turn, right? You're pretty much committed, not committed, but you're getting close to committed by the turn. And so it's just such a dangerous situation to approach from out of position. I'm just folding all those marginal iffy hands. But if I have a great idea of how I can exploit this player when I have position, then I'll open up my calling range because I already thought about it. I know how to exploit this guy. King Queen suited, Jack 10 suited, pocket eights, I might call just with the idea that I know he's flop honest. He's going to check on the flop if he misses. I'm going to bet and take it down.
Yep, just goes to show. I mean, the more you know about the players at the table, the more you're able to kind of deviate from these general rules and make those exploits like Sky's talking about. And Sky, you play a lot of cash games, and so maybe you're going to see the same opponents more frequently at the table. You can kind of get more hands on them. There's actually a question here from Joseph Koulis in the chat who says, on anonymous sites like Ignition, beyond broad population thoughts, do you have suggestions of how to characterize villains when you get them for a much shorter period in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, all this year, I've been playing mostly on Ignition, and I'm using my basic same strategies. The big thing, what was the guy's name in the chat?
Joseph Koulis. We call him Joe
Joseph.
Cool.
The big thing is try to classify your opponent's ASAP, right? Let me give you a great example. I do this every single time. Somebody sits down at the table with 30 big blinds and they post a big blind in the MP, fish. I label him green right away. Absolute fish, right? I haven't even seen him play a hand. I know he's a fish because of just like I just said, those things. And then pay attention on Ignition. If you have Poker Tracker 4, you can get the Ignition hand grabber, utilize the HUD. All you need to do really is look at VPIP and PFR, right? So VPIP is voluntarily put money in the pot, PFR is pre-flop raise. If that gap between the two is bigger than their PFR, like let's just take a good example, 30/5. He plays 30% of hands. He only raises 5% of the time. That 25% gap is all of his calls and limps. That's another fish right there. So contrast that, and you'll see that 30/5 within 10 or 12 hands on a player. Like super quick. Even at 6 max, it's just 2 rounds at the table. 15 minutes, you already get a good read on him. But a similar player, 30/20, that gap is only 10, but they're raising 20% of the time, playing 30% hands. That's a loose, aggressive player. So just use VPIP and PFR and just classify them. As soon as you have an idea of what they're up to, just tag them as that player and then treat them as, like you had said, that broad category, that generalization of the player pool. Just play against them that way. Yeah, until you learn more. Like when you're sitting there 20, 30, 50 hands, then you have a better understanding. But you can truly, everybody at the table, within the first 2 rounds, you can characterize each of them by player type, but just keep paying attention. The fish could turn into a tight aggressive player. He just had a lot of hands to start with that he just called with, but he could turn tight aggressive. So tag them and then pay attention. Potentially be willing to change your assumption of their player type, or presumption, I would rather say.
I like that a lot. So, there are certain things that should be apparent to you very quickly that you can start to make these assumptions about. But then don't be afraid to go back and adjust that if you've been playing with them for longer and you have new information. Of course, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Chris, do you have another thing?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think there's using your HUD and your sort of sense of stuff in game. But this question comes from Rob Adsum in the chat, and he's sort of wondering about when we're talking about looking at our hands after the fact and sort of studying them, and you've already spoken about leaks and maybe even finding those things where we're being successful and doing well. And so Rob's wondering, what are the 3 or 4 most important stats to pull out of PT4 to focus on for that kind of study?
So, okay, statistics, you want to look at your 2-bet and then call 2-bet. So let's go pre-flop first. Your 2-bet, which is open raising or raising over limpers, and then call 2-bet, which is calling that initial raise. But you want to look at call 2-bet by position, right? So 2-bet and then call 2-bet. You also want to look at your 3-bet percentage and your 2-bet and then call 3-bet. Never filter for just calling 3-bets. Most of us don't cold call 3-bets. Like sometimes you'll see the fishiest players cold call out of the big blind, 9 big blinds. They haven't committed anything other than big blind. That's another sign of a fish, Joseph, if you remember that one right there. But then, so those are the 4 pre-flop stats you definitely want to pay attention to. And when you see anything that just seems high, like imagine whatever your statistic is, imagine you saw a player at the table with that same stat. What does that say about the player? If you look at those stats and imagine that was Bob in seat one, and then you say, oh my God, that guy's a fish. Look at those stats. You're a fish, right? Those are your stats. You're a fish. So you can use your understanding of exploiting other players and what HUD stats mean to just characterize yourself. Look at those. And then now you know a general area of study and of purposeful like practice and study that you can do to not be so fishy. Post flop, you want to look at your c-bet flop turn river, your fold to flop turn and river c-bet. Also look at your call river statistic right there, because that's kind of important. Oh, I'm sorry, not call river statistic. One at showdown when calling river. That's an important one. If you're winning at showdown after calling, and I have some students who win after calling on rivers just 10 or 30% of the time. That's not enough. You're losing a ton of money if you're winning only 10 or 30%, right? When you call at the final street, when the pot's the biggest, most chips at risk with your call right there. So those are statistics. Now for win rates, you want to look for all of those statistics I just mentioned. Filter for those within Poker Tracker 4 to see what your win rate is when you make that play. So, for example, calling 2-bets, right? If you filter for calling a 2-bet preflop and you see that your win rates in the small blind when calling is negative 250 and in the big blind it's negative 125, well, if you had folded all those times instead of calling, I don't care if you called with pocket aces or kings, called with pocket deuces and hit a set. If you would have folded all those times, your win rate in the big blind would be negative 100 instead of negative 125. You would have saved money even if you called in all those perfect spots or folded all those perfect spots. If you folded every small blind, you'd be at negative 50, but you're at negative 250. You 5x'd your folding all hands losses by calling, right? So look at anything negative and red when it comes to filtering win rates, and anything big and ugly, negative 200, negative 500. I have a student who, when he 2-bets and then calls 3-bets, he was at negative 766 big blinds per 100 hands. Something
That's
like
expensive.
Close. Yeah, it's expensive. So that means every time he calls, on average, he's losing 7.66 big blinds. He only committed 3 big blinds as his open raise. If he would have folded versus every 3-bet, he'd be at negative 300, but he's at negative 766, 2.5x's losses right there.
That's amazing. Those are great stats. I'm sure Captain Walleye is going to appreciate that. Jack Burke, another fantastic premium member, says, I'd love to hear any comments about 66 days of hand reading. And let me just say right off the bat, this is one of my favorite pieces of poker content that anyone has ever created. Almost every single coaching client that I get, it starts with, okay, have you started Sky Matsuhashi's 66 days of hand reading? It's such a great way for people to play along with you as you use Flopzilla to kind of break down their ranges. And it's the skill that I think benefits players of this wonderful game more than maybe any other skill. Just this ability of street by street decision making, narrowing the range of hands that people can have. Do you often get this kind of amazing feedback about that program, that collection of videos? Have you done anything else that you feel like is in its same level of adoration in the poker world? Like talk a little bit about that series and why it's so amazingly popular and helpful.
Yeah, people do seem to like it. I looking at the viewership numbers, they don't go through all 66 because that's a lot of videos to be watching, of me doing one different hand that got to showdown and doing the full hand reading exercise every single day. And I did it for 66 days and I absolutely loved doing it. It's the number one best single 66 days of the same activity over and over again. But it's the single best thing I've ever done for my poker game. It developed my skills as a coach and everything. I absolutely loved it. And so I created that, I can't remember, 4 or 5 years ago or whatever the dates on the videos are on YouTube. But I loved it. And yeah, I've gotten so much good feedback about it. And people really enjoyed going through those videos with me. Like I said, I don't think they go through all 66, but I highly recommend, like if you like video 1 or 2, please go ahead, keep watching. But the thing is, I highly recommend, don't just watch the video, right? You're going to see me going through a hand. pause the video, open up Flopzilla Pro, and go along with me. Imagine you or me. Like in those hand, I might have been Frisky Misky or my other screen name Wacky Wan, right? Whatever it was. Imagine you're Frisky Misky or Wacky Wan. That opponent in seat 1, that's your opponent. Like you play against him. Don't build the range that I build. Build the range that you would give that opponent if you were actually playing with him. So watching the videos is great, but one thing I like to say is do as you consume. If you watch somebody do a Poker Tracker 4 video, a Flopzilla Pro video, a GTO Plus video, open up the software if you have access to it on your computer and do it along with the person. You're going to learn so much more when you do that.
And if anyone is interested in any of those software choices, I'll tell them they can go to rec.poker/resources and you'll find links to all of them and some discount codes there too. I mean, Flopzilla, Poker Tracker 4, I think are two of the most important pieces of software you can have as a poker student. So I'd encourage people to check that out. And Sky, these are free videos on YouTube. Is this at the Smart Poker Study YouTube channel?
Yes.
It's just
Exactly.
the tip of the iceberg of what's available there, but it's phenomenal.
Just at Smart Poker Study, you can find all those free videos. I can't remember the count. I have near 400, probably over 400 videos on YouTube by now. I can't. It's all free. Obviously, it's YouTube. You know.
Amazing. So I think we've got one more question here. This is from premium member Eric Anderson in the chat, and then we'll let you roll on out of here. Are you ever concerned about the legality of online poker? And have you considered becoming an activist to make poker legal in more states? And what can a rec poker player do to advance our cause?
No, I'm not concerned with it. And so this is just honest. I guess I could get more concerned in activism, but no, I'm not concerned with legal poker. Online poker isn't legalized or regulated in California, but I still play on America's Card Room and Ignition. I don't plan on ever being an activist for anything really. It's just not in my nature. And then what was the last question? And
what can recreational players do in sort of this to advance the cause of legalizing it, or not legalizing it necessarily, but making it a more a more protected class?
That's a good question. I have no idea other than, so if you're a recreational poker player, you probably play live as well. Maybe just like talk to your friends about it. If you make friends with them at the poker table, let them know that you play on Ignition and America's Card Room and just let them know that playing online is okay. Because a lot of people have this, and maybe it's well justified and well earned with all the scandals in online poker and stuff, but they have this idea that online poker is full of collusion and cheaters and bots. And sure, there is some of that, but there's that in live games as well. Not bots, but cheaters and collusion and stuff, right? But just like be your own, just the way you play and the way you act, just be, I guess, a good representative for online poker. If you're one of those people, and it happens on YouTube sometimes, I release a video, somebody will leave a comment decrying online poker and say it's rigged and I always lose on the river and complain. If you're that kind of live player, if you're that kind of person that complains about online poker, you're not doing it any service, Yeah. So I guess just be a proponent of online poker. That doesn't mean go out there and get signatures for anything. I mean, you could do that if you want. That's just not me. I'm not into activism, but just be positive about online poker if you like it, I guess.
Yeah. Rob made a comment here that he always watches along with your hand reading videos with a hand pulled from his own PT4. And that seems like just a great way to do it. Sky, you're a proponent for active study, so it's no surprise. I mean, we're big believers in that too. We try and make people talk through their action. We have a discourse about the material. It activates a different part of your brain when you're actively studying as opposed to just watching along. So I guess is that it? How did you decide that was such a crucial part of your own coaching method? Because so much of what you do is around, it's not necessarily the Socratic method, but it's about having the people kind of like do the work themselves and building those synapses. Did that just come naturally to you, or was it just become evident through your coaching career?
It became evident as I was trying to learn poker and train myself before I ever created anything. Because like, if you look at any of the old books, I mean, they're teaching strategies and stuff, but nobody tells you how to study or how to practice or how to go through your Poker Tracker 4 database There was hardly any videos on how to use Poker Stove at the time when I was learning back in 03 and 04, you know? And then so I just eventually learned that just by trial and error for myself, right? I would read an entire book, Sklansky's book on, well, I can't remember the various Sklansky books. I would read it all in 5 days and I wouldn't learn anything. My results weren't improving. My strategies weren't improving. I didn't feel like I was doing anything. And just something suddenly clicked in my head. I've been a teacher for a good part of my life. I started off being an SAT math teacher in college, like a classroom teacher, but then one-on-one teaching. And I just realized that drilling and purposefully practicing on certain math topics over and over again is how you learn. After college, I went to Japan and taught English for a year and a half. And in there, when you're teaching people how to speak English, and I wasn't allowed to speak Japanese, I couldn't say anything in Japanese to help them understand concepts. I was required just to speak in English. But we did tons of drills over and over again. I gave them a sentence structure, and then we practiced that one sentence over and over with different nouns and verbs within the sentence. You know what I mean? And so I know that repetitive drills really help people learn Japanese. And so if this kind of purposeful practice and repetitive drills work for other things, and they also work for sports. We all played sports growing up, right? When you learn to dribble a ball, you'd be out there in the front yard in the street for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, just dribbling, right? Was when your dad finally gave you a basketball hoop, you would take shot after shot in the street, right? And that's how you learn, develop those muscle memories and how you got better at the sport. Well, the same stuff happens for poker. But for so many years, nobody ever talked about it. And I felt that it was like a niche that was underserved. And then so that's where Smart Poker Study came from.
There you go.
And well, my whole teaching style. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I know you've got new material coming out all the time. What have you been working on lately, and what can, if people want to get more involved or want to dip their toe into Lake Matsuhashi, what have you got coming up that people can get excited about?
Yeah, well, I have, I'm going to be releasing it this week. It's my 1-day 3-bet bluffing course, where over the course of 1 day, 8 to 10 hours, I'm going to teach you how to become a pre-flop 3-bet bluffer. But it's not just pre-flop, it's also some post-flop strategies too, because sometimes you get called when you 3-bet bluff with your 7-6 suited in your pocket fours. Yeah, exactly. Drat. Darn, I know I got called.
It doesn't seem
so you
fair.
you got to figure out what to do post flop to win that 3-bet pot, right? So it's all of that pre-flop and post-flop strategies for 3-bet bluffing. And I'm actually going to, this week's podcast is going to be about how to learn from course content. Like when you sign up for a course or you buy somebody's course or you get a membership, how do you learn from that stuff? Because a lot of people don't know how to learn from that. They get a membership to the Poke Forge and they just watch video after video after video. But then this week's podcast is going to give you strategies on how to learn from course content specifically. And I'm going to feature my new course within that podcast episode in the video on YouTube, kind of like demonstrating how to learn from courses. So that'll be coming out this week at smartpokerstudy.com/YouTube for that video, or just smartpokerstudy.com as well. But look for that episode dropping probably on Wednesday or Thursday.
All right. So if you're watching live here on YouTube, you've got a few days to make some room in the calendar because you're going to have some fun studying to do coming up. This episode will come out on its audio format on Friday this week. So if you're listening to this to the day that it comes out, you can probably head over to smartpokerstudy.com/YouTube or something similar, and you'll be able to find it there. So that's exciting. Well, is there anything else, Sky? Is there anything else that you're excited about or that you want to share with the audience before we let you roll on out of here?
Nothing else like Smart Poker Study wise. I mean, next week's going to be Thanksgiving, and I love Thanksgiving.
Oh, you've got your tournament, right? Did you still do that every year? Is that the
I don't know if they're holding it this year. They held it last year, and it's always fun. It's called the turkey shoot, right? We do it every single year. I just don't know. I haven't heard anything about it this year. And generally by now I will have heard something. Are we expecting 18, 27 players? What's the buy-in? $100, $150, whatever it is. I haven't heard anything. So thanks for reminding me. I need to contact my friend Bert and figure out what's going on there. So I'm hoping we're playing again this year. But yes. But besides that, just dinner, Thanksgiving's coming up with the family. That'll be nice and fun. And then after that, starting on Monday the 28th, I'm going to resume my GTO Plus daily Discord, I guess streams, I guess you can call them, with my Poker Forge members.
Right on. Well, I've always enjoyed hearing those recaps on the podcast of the fun that you've had down there at the turkey shoot and that sort of thing. And so, if folks want to get a hold of this guy, you can go to at Smart Poker Study on Twitter, which I know you're active there. The Smart Poker Study YouTube channel. With the pokerforge.com. Are there other ways that links or addresses or ways for people to find you?
Nope, that's it. Those are them. And then just my main site, smartpokerstudy.com. Yeah.
Yeah, nailed it. All right.
Cool.
Well, Sky, I always enjoy these conversations. I feel like our listeners leave with a richer understanding of the game and how to study, which I think is so important. So thank you for this time. And I hope if folks had a good time today, go tweet at Smart Poker Study. Let Sky know that you heard him on the show and that you had a great time. And we'll just start looking forward to the next time we get to break this out together, my man.
Yep. I'll be here for you.
Cheers.
All right.
Well,
care.
thanks again, Sky. You have a good night and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. You too.
All right. So, yes, we got some comments in the chat here. I don't know if they shoot an actual turkey. I'm guessing that they don't. That hasn't come up in the podcast recaps that I've heard, Joe, but I'm not sure about that. Eric Anderson says the 3 greatest tools for a beginner are Sky's 66 Days of Hand Reading, Jonathan Little's Weekly Poker Hand, and Split Suit's Free Poker Math Course in that order. And I've got good news for fans of Eric Anderson's. Sky, Jonathan, and James Sweeney at Split Suit, they're all members of our Learning with Partners program. So if you feel like these are the kind of people that you'd like to be learning from, I'd encourage you to go give that RecPoker Premium membership a try for $5 using the code RecPoker. And we've got like 2 years in our archive now of video clips from these amazing training sites. And it's not just them, it's Learn Pro Poker, it's Solve for Why, it's the MTT Poker Academy, the list goes on. We have quite an archive of themed training videos that these other amazing training sites have put together. And Andrew Feist, who's our Learning Partners director here, he chooses different segments from this material every month that sort of sync up with our theme of the month. So if you want to learn about 3-betting or responding to 3-bets or playing against limpers, all the kind of recent subjects of ours and an upcoming subject of ours in our themes of the month, come check that out and you'll get a whole bunch of great stuff there. I see we're already starting the food bank in the chat. That's awesome. So if you're listening along, you just type the words food bank into the chat box. And we're going to we're not going to draw a prize. We're going to roll a nerdy die here. And the winner this week will get a free month of membership at rec.poker. If you are already a premium member here at RecPoker, then we'll take that $15 that you would have spent that month and we'll convert it into a coaching credit. You can get help from anyone on the Wrecking crew, myself, Chris, I know John and Rob always have their ears open. Tim Fritz, Keith Brandt, Kim Kilroy. We've got a host of folks on the Wrecking crew that love working with poker players.
And Taylor Moss, who's been on a tear lately too. Just a tear.
It's quite a lot of big success. You've had a good hit recently. Keith had the best score of his lifetime a few weeks ago, which is amazing. Taylor's been kicking butt. And it's not just the Wrecking Crew members. Like Colin Anderson had a really nice score recently. Yeah. Some other premium members are tearing it up. And there's also like other folks like Kevin Mathers, Gareth James, Dario Kearney, are also members of the Wrecking Crew who just love spreading their love of poker with players all over. So go to rec.poker/crew and see if there's anyone there that you're interested in working with. I'm glad to see that Phil's telling me that I'm number one right now. And I know exactly how you're doing that, Phil. I can visualize the way that you're telling me that I'm number one. So thank you for that. Well, I was going to run into we were going to run into the home games. We've got all these people typing food bank in the chat. So I think we should just do the draw now. So the first one in there was Rob Adsom, Captain Walleye. He knows how this game is played. You want to get in there early because these dice seem to really enjoy rolling a 1. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so we get to roll an 8-sided die. Yes, we get to pull out the nerd die. So I'm actually going to just say if it's a 1, we're going to re-roll it. And if it's 2 through 8, that'll correspond to the numbers 1 through 7.
You can't do that to Rob Ansem.
I don't know. I think he was kind of bending the rules anyway. Otherwise, why not? Pretty soon people are going to start chatting while we're in the preview stuff before the podcast.
Now you got an eighth one. An eighth one just
we got an
in.
8th. Yeah, no, Jack got it. Okay, so Jack, you saved Rob being the number 1 spot here. All right, so we're going to roll the 8-sided. No, Rob's gonna be. I love doing these live. I enjoyed doing these when we did them in the can, but man, I love doing these live. I get such a kick out of seeing these
Rob's
people blow
honor.
up in the chat.
If Rob, this is a 1. You owe me part of your prize because I.
No, that's true. It's true. All right, Rob, you got us. So we're doing. Yeah, Rob says food bank next week. Yeah, that's right. That's what we were talking about here. Okay, let's see what we got. All right, so starting with Rob and working down here. Yeah, that's right, Joe. There's 8 of us, 8 of them. So let's see who the winner is. 4. All right, so Rob was 1, 2, 3. It's Jack LaRue. Jack, welcome back to the winner's circle. You're no stranger to coming across here. I know we're shouting you out on the podcast for being a home game winner. Jack, send me an email, my friend, jim@rec.poker, and we will make sure that you get that prize. And everyone else, I'll just say, we use the word food bank because A, we love giving stuff away, but it's also just an easy way to reference the fact that there's lots of people maybe in your neighborhood who are having trouble putting food on the table. It's not always the people that you might expect. So lots of people need help right now. So a great way for you to help out your community in your neighborhood is to just go down, just Google local food bank or food bank near me, and you'll find an organization that could use some dollars, time, or some non-perishable food items. So I'd encourage everyone to go and support your local food bank. And yeah, Jack, send me that email, my friend, and we'll get you all hooked up. Speaking of getting all hooked up, we're about to talk about who won some home games recently. And one of our kind of new additions to the home game club is our Fun Country online play and hang. And this is every Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern. Our premium members are welcome to come and play a 9-handed sit and go. It's free to play. And the winner gets a $25 Amazon gift card. That's $25 US, folks. Compliments of our friends over at Fun Country Poker. It's a great platform. It's an easy way to play with your friends and have a social experience.
You get to see each other. It's interactive. It's social. You can win $25. Let's go.
Come on. Check it out. I know folks like Dave Westerveld. They're printing money this year. They're paying $15 a month to be a RecPoker premium member, and they are just rolling in these $25 Amazon gift cards. So he's making money for it. Phil Razor says he's been bamboozled again. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Phil, send me that screenshot. I don't want to have to get Joey Ingram back on the show talking about the newest scandal in streaming, in poker streaming. But yeah, that's right. Oh, some fun comments from Troy and Ben too. Troy Chapman and Ben Enslow, who have something in common that I'm not gonna say on the air right now. But Troy and Ben, you guys have a little something in common that some of our other Wrecking Crew members might get a chance to talk about a little later on tonight. Charles Allen is the fellow who won the Fun Country online play and hang last week. So Charles, way to go. It's been fun getting to see a little more of Charles lately in some of our strategy discussions too. He's always looking so dapper, coming in there and dropping knowledge on us. So thanks, Charles, and congratulations. You'll be getting that Amazon gift card in the mail sometime soon. But the real prize from the online home games, as you'll see, are these snappy pins, these fancy, handsome, elusive RecPoker pins. And you can only win those from playing in our free home game club on PokerStars, run by the incomparable John Somsky. So, John, why don't you take us through some recent winners and tell them what they've won?
Well, we'll start off. I mean, you just mentioned someone who had been on a tear lately, so we'll just continue that trend and. Gopher boy TJM.
I mean,
second.
I didn't know he was listening either. I mean, he pipes up in the chat. Let's just move on. This is like yada yada.
There he is.
I would
He's
like
got a
nothing,
wrench in the chat. Careful, he's holding that wrench a little like it's a weapon. Careful.
I'd like nothing
careful.
better than to skip this. However, it's just too impressive. This is his second mixed victory for the year.
Oh.
He is leading both of our championship
Oh
series.
my God!
He is ahead
on.
in the No Limit Hold'em
Whatever.
series
Ugh.
and the mixed game
What
series
I think
as it sits right now.
our
He's
guest,
gonna be
our guest tonight.
insufferable.
What did Sky say? Online poker is rigged. Isn't that what he said? That's what we were supposed to say. That was the takeaway.
Yeah,
I think Taylor's figured that out.
Taylor says, "Let's talk about the player of the year." Yeah, we all hear you, Taylor. No, all kidding aside, we love to give Taylor a hard time on the show here, but and rightfully so. But that is really impressive to be able to be leading the mixed game standings and the No Limit Hold'em standings. Like that's my hat's off to you, sir. Well done. So
I'm just,
I mean, it's still November, but
begging the rest of the community here to please do not let him win both of these. I mean. He's insufferable.
You don't have to work with him.
He's insufferable as it is. So please give him some competition. At least if he's going to be insufferable, make him earn the hell out of it.
Yeah. Should we put a bounty on him?
Yes.
Let's put a bounty on him.
Yes.
Let's do it. There's one more monthly tournament left, right? There's the December No Limit Hold'em one on the first Wednesday of the month. And there's the mixed game monthly on the second Wednesday of the month. Yep. I'm just going to say right now, if you're playing in the monthly home game in December, if you take Taylor Moss out, we're going to give you a free month of premium membership at rec.poker. And if you're already a premium member, we're going to convert that into a $15 coaching credit that you could get from Taylor. Taylor is one of our coaching
Spread the word,
members.
Spread the word wide and far. Let's get the whole player pool knowing this.
You guys realize all you're doing is giving him lots of loose chips for the home game. You're going to cement his earning the top spot.
Yeah, that's it. It's official. Yeah, we're all going to be Gopher Boy hunting come Wednesdays in December. I'm gonna stand by that. So I know Rob, we might be helping him out there too, but that's the plan. So if you take Taylor out on the first Wednesday of the month or the second Wednesday of the month in December, let me know. Taylor, try and like just jot down whoever takes you out of the tournament. And Taylor, I guess if you win each of those tournaments and no one takes you out, then we'll have to come up with something embarrassing for me to do that sort of counters that, because that seems like the only fair way to do that. So, but seriously, congratulations, 11 months in. That's a hell of an accomplishment.
I mean, isn't just you being here embarrassing enough?
Some say it is so, John.
Yeah.
Some say it is so.
I guess, we could have you sing like the American national anthem.
Right. That would be a good one.
Oh.
That would be a good turnaround. There's history there. That's true.
Okay, so then for the daily series, Ivor Big One got his second nightly victory for the year. Mudslinger 1942, Jack Pesho got his third nightly victory for the year. Torner Joshua Kamba, fourth nightly victory. Keki 65, that is Keck Geek Jr., got his sixth nightly victory for the year, and that's his 39th lifetime victory for the RecPoker Club.
Wow, so impressive. Holy
With
cow.
that, I'm going to pause and say, we have something coming for you next year. There is going to be a prize that Keck Geek 65 private.
Doxed.
Is very close to earning. So there will be more about that, and we will announce that as the year goes along. I need to finalize some things with Jim, but there is more to come. Then, Devil Rod 6, Omar Rodriguez got his first nightly victory for the year. Stewie 13, Stuart Carriage, got his second daily mixed victory for the year.
He's
Evil
back.
Roy CBA, David Westerveld won the 8 a.m. international tournament, and
All he does
Chip
is
Charles
win.
Ammon won the 2 p.m. for his second victory for the year. Now then, KB won the LPP event, so he should contact Jim at Rec.Poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
That's right. And I'm just going to say, Doug, you are in for a treat. Send me that email, jim@rec.poker. There's a lot of great stuff happening over at Learn Pro Poker that you will enjoy. Because as John points out, everyone who wins again, these home games are free, people. They're free. We have them. There's 10 a week. If you win the one that we have on Sunday, that's the Learn Pro Poker Sunday home game. It's just as free. It's just as fun. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern, just like all the other nightly home games. We have some earlier ones on Saturday for our international guests. But you can win a free month at Learn Pro Poker, and it's really valuable. They do amazing stuff there. So now then, KB, I might have just doxed you if your name's private. Sorry about that. But send me that email, jim@rec.poker. I know who you are. And we'll get you that prize. So I'm excited for that. That's going to be awesome. Well, I wish Rob could join the conversation here because he's got some exciting news too. Rob, you want to try?
You?
No.
Oh,
Hey,
hey.
it works. We got him.
I
It's
took
Rob
off
Washam.
my headset. I'm using the microphone on my computer now.
There you go.
So that must be the issue.
That's it.
The
So
exciting news.
if
but-
folks are watching live, if folks are watching live, they'll be able to join us this Wednesday.
Okay. Yes. This Wednesday, we have Dara O'Carney and Barry Carter joining the book study.
Yes.
Now that's at 6:30 Central Time. And if you're a premium member, you can join and ask questions of your own. We do have a few questions already submitted by some of our members. So we have a list of questions that we're going to ask them about the book, Endgame Poker Strategy. We can also probably get into a little bit about the new book and get a little bit of insight into what the new book is all about, because I believe that's coming out now, or
Yeah,
might
real
just
soon.
be coming out real
Yep.
soon. So there's a lot of things going on with Dara and Barry, and so it'll be fun to catch up with them again and talk about Endgame Poker Strategy and get them to answer some of our questions.
That's going to be great, and I think we always do this when we do the book study. At the end of the sessions, we have a Q&A, a live Q&A with the author, and it honestly it runs like a coaching session. So if you're listening live, it's not too late. Join the premium membership for $5 and come in and basically get an hour of coaching from Barry Carter and Dara O'Carney. You can't go wrong with that. It's a great conversation. Those guys really know what they're talking about, and getting that kind of live access through the group coaching dynamic is fantastic. Troy Chapman piping up in the chat here to say he's already got his copy of The Poker Brain because that is the next book that we're going to be reviewing. Rob Washam is going to be leading our premium membership through The Poker Brain by Matt Matros, chapter by chapter. Starting in the first Wednesday of December, I think. Is that right, Rob?
That will be correct.
And so that'll be getting into that for the holidays. But we do archive all these sessions. And Rob goes to great lengths to put excellent slides together for every session, summarizing each of the notes from the chapter. We do a review at the end of it. There's a lot of great additional learning that you can get from either just checking the slides that Rob's put out in advance, or by actually just watching the videos of the previous session. So it's not too late to get caught up and to get involved. And that's just a tip of the iceberg of what we do here in the premium membership at RecPoker. Chris, the next theme of the month that's coming up in December is playing against limpers. Is that right?
That's correct.
Go
ahead. No,
so all month will be kind of whether it's in your seminar, whether it's in the deep dive video, whether it's in Keith Brandt's off table tools session, whether it's in my own Poker Tracker 4 review group, Kim Kilroy's hand history review group, all the great stuff that we do here. The theme is going to be playing against limpers. So if that's something that you experience in your game playing against limpers, I'm sure it is. This might be a good time to come and dip your toe into what's going on in RecPoker. Give yourself a little holiday gift, little Christmas should come early for some of our members this year, I think. For $5, come on, come in and join the conversation. Troy says we need to be publicly flogging limpers. Yeah, that's right. Well, we do that by raising over them with a perfectly balanced range and then stealing their chips post flop. So that's that. You can get me into that kind of a flogging any day. What else should we talk to our listeners about before we roll on out of here, gang? I think that might be it. Well, it's just impossible for me to express how appreciative I am to our sponsors, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, Sky Matsuhashi, what an amazing guy and guest, Rob, John, and Chris, and you, the listeners. We could not do it without you, so thanks for your support, and we'll see you next week.